You pretend you're fine, but your soul has been aching for truth for a very long time now. You walk through the halls of your life, through the chapels of your worship, and through the quiet corridors of your own mind, and you feel a distance that you are afraid to name. It is a silent struggle, a spiritual hunger that isn't satisfied by the surface-level answers or the repetitive motions of a faith that has become more habit than heartbeat. You look at the heavens and you see a brass ceiling, and you wonder why the God of the burning bush and the God of the rushing mighty wind seems so quiet in your specific hour of need. You are waiting for a lightning bolt, a grand manifestation, or a voice from the clouds to tell you which way to turn, but the silence persists, and in that silence, doubt begins to take root. You feel lost in the very place where you were told you would be found. Joseph Smith once felt exactly the same way, standing on the edge of a deep, dark woods, his heart a battlefield of conflicting voices and paralyzing uncertainty, just before heaven opened and changed the world forever. He knew the agony of the silence before the storm of revelation. He understood that the moment you feel most broken, the moment you feel most abandoned by the light, is often the very moment you are being prepared for a calling you cannot yet conceive. You are in that darkness before the dawn, and the reason you feel so much friction is not because God is far away, but because you are standing at the threshold of a breakthrough that requires a different kind of sight. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for God to speak in a language they already understand, never realizing that revelation is a language we must learn to speak through the labor of our own souls. There is a pattern, a sacred architecture to hearing the voice of the infinite, and it is a pattern that 95% of those who seek it eventually miss because they are looking for a feeling when they should be looking for a transformation. You carry this quietly, this fear that maybe you aren't worthy or maybe you aren't capable of hearing him. But that fear is the first evidence of your calling. The hunger itself is the proof that the bread exists. If you didn't have the capacity for revelation, you wouldn't feel the pain of its absence so acutely. This is the moment where you stop pretending and start becoming. This is the moment where the internal conflict ends and the alignment begins. You have been asking for a sign, but God has been asking for your surrender to the process he laid out through a young boy in a grove of trees. It is time to move past the superficial and enter the depths of the prophetic pattern. The world tells you that spirituality is about comfort, that the spirit is a warm blanket meant to shield you from the harsh realities of existence. But Joseph Smith saw something far more intense and far more demanding. He saw revelation as a fire that purifies, a light that exposes the cracks in our foundation so they can be healed. When Joseph walked into that grove in 1820, he wasn't looking for a pleasant emotion. He was looking for an anchor in a world that was pulling him apart. He was caught in a war of words and a tumult of opinions, a spiritual noise that mirrors the digital noise you drown in every single day. We live in a time of unprecedented distraction, where the voice of the soul is muffled by the roar of the crowd, and we wonder why we cannot hear the whisper of the divine. Joseph's first great insight was that revelation does not come to the casual observer. It comes to the desperate seeker. It comes to the one who has reached the end of their own wisdom and is willing to admit that they know nothing. This is the sacred psychological breakthrough, the recognition of our own spiritual poverty. Until you realize that your own intellect and your own feelings are insufficient to guide you through the complexities of eternity, you will continue to miss the subtle frequency of the heavens. Most people miss the revelation because they are trying to fit God into their current schedule, their current worldview, and their current comfort zone. But the prophet taught that to receive more, we must become more. We must expand the capacity of our minds and the reach of our hearts. Revelation is not just information dropped into a bucket. It is the expanding of the bucket itself. It is the stretching of the soul until it can contain the light of the sun. You feel that stretching right now as a tension, a pressure in your chest, an anxiety about the future. Do not run from that pressure. That pressure is the sign that your spirit is trying to grow beyond its current boundaries. The darkness you feel is not the absence of God. It is the shadow of his hand as he reshapes your life. You are being called out of the comfortable pews of your own certainty and into the wild, unmapped territory of personal witness. This is not a church sermon. This is a reckoning with your own potential. There is a light awaiting you, but it requires you to walk through the grove of your own fears first. The first forgotten key that Joseph Smith emphasized, the one that so many miss because it sounds too simple, is the necessity of asking in faith with real intent. We have turned prayer into a shopping list of desires or a formal report of our day. But Joseph understood that true petition is a form of consecration. When he read the words of James, that if any man lack wisdom, he should ask of God, he didn't just read them. He felt them burn into his very marrow. He realized that God was not a distant judge to be appeased, but a generous father waiting for a specific kind of invitation. The real intent Joseph spoke of is not just a sincere wish. It is a total commitment to act upon whatever answer is given, before the answer even arrives. This is where the 95% falter. We ask God for guidance, but we reserve the right to decide if we like the guidance before we follow it. We want a preview of the revelation so we can negotiate the terms of our obedience. But heaven does not negotiate. Revelation is a covenant. When you ask with real intent, you are telling the universe, I have laid my will upon the altar. Whatever you command, I will do. Whatever you reveal, I will become. This is a psychological state of total surrender, an empowered stillness where the ego is silenced so the spirit can speak. If you are not receiving answers, ask yourself if you have truly committed to the outcome. Are you asking for God's will, or are you asking for God's stamp of approval on your own will? Joseph's prayer in the grove was not a request for a feeling. It was a desperate cry for truth that would dictate the entire course of his life. He was willing to lose his reputation, his safety, and eventually his life for the answer he received. That is real intent. It is the moment you stop treating God as a consultant and start treating him as the source. You carry a silent struggle because you are holding back a piece of yourself, a small corner of your heart where you still want to be the master of your fate. The breakthrough comes when you let go of the oars and let the current of revelation carry you. It is the paradox of the restoration. The moment you break is the moment you're called. The moment you admit you are powerless is the moment you are filled with the power of the heights. The second key Joseph revealed is the labor of the mind, the requirement to study it out. There is a common misconception that revelation is a passive experience, something that happens to us while we wait in a state of mental vacuum. We think we can sit in a chair, close our eyes, and wait for a spiritual lightning bolt to strike. But Joseph's experience with the translation of the Book of Mormon and his instructions to Oliver Cowdery tell a different story. He taught that we must use our agency and our intellect to explore the problem from every angle before the witness comes. You must study it out in your mind, the Lord told Oliver, and that instruction remains the most ignored commandment in the modern quest for revelation. Revelation is a partnership between the human mind and the divine spirit. It is not a replacement for thought. It is the perfection of thought. Joseph spent hours, days, and months immersed in the scriptures, weighing options, asking questions, and exerting his mental faculties to their absolute limit. He understood that the brain is the laboratory of the spirit. When you face a decision, you cannot simply ask and wait. You must research, you must analyze, you must simulate the outcomes in your mind, and you must exhaust your own resources. God respects our agency too much to do for us what we can do for ourselves. He is a teacher, not a search engine. Most people miss the revelation because they are too lazy to do the intellectual work required to prepare the soil. They want the harvest without the plowing. But the light of revelation usually shines on a mind that is already in motion. It comes as a clarification of our best efforts, a yes or a no to a path we have already begun to pave. This is why you feel stuck. You are waiting for God to move your feet, while God is waiting for you to move your mind so he can direct your steps. The psychological framing of this is crucial. Revelation often feels like a sudden stroke of ideas. But those ideas are the result of a mind that has been consecrated to the search. You are not a vessel to be filled. You are a fire to be lit, and the wood for that fire is your own study and your own labor. One of the most dangerous traps in the modern spiritual landscape is the reliance on feelings alone. We have been conditioned to believe that if we feel good, it's from God, and if we feel bad or nothing at all, God is absent. But Joseph Smith taught that the spirit of revelation is pure intelligence flowing into. This is the third key. recognizing that the spirit speaks to the mind as much as the heart. Feelings are fickle. They are influenced by our biology, our sleep, our diet, and our environment. If you base your relationship with the divine solely on emotional highs, you will be tossed about by every wave of your own psychology. Joseph's description of revelation was not about an emotional outburst, but about an expansion of the soul and the enlightening of the understanding. He spoke of things feeling right in a way that resonated with truth, not just comfort. Sometimes the Spirit tells us things that are deeply uncomfortable. Sometimes it calls us to repentance, or to a task that scares us, or to a change that we resist. If we only look for warm fuzzies, we will miss 95% of what God is trying to say, because God is often trying to push us out of our comfort zone. The burning in the bosom mentioned in the scriptures is often misinterpreted as a physical sensation of heat. But for Joseph, it was a metaphor for a heart that is on fire with truth, a clarity that cannot be denied, a resonance that vibrates with the frequency of reality. It is a witness that comes after the trial of your faith, a quiet certainty that remains even when the emotions fade. You must learn to distinguish between the noise of your own ego, which seeks validation, and the voice of the Spirit, which seeks alignment with eternal law. This requires a sacred introspection, a willingness to look past your immediate emotional state and ask, does this enlarge my soul? Does it enlighten my understanding? Does it lead me to do good? If the answer is yes, then you are hearing the voice of the prophet's God, even if your heart is pounding with fear. The fourth key, and perhaps the most vital for those living in this fast-paced world, is the necessity of acting immediately upon the promptings we receive. Joseph Smith was a man of action. When he received a commandment, he moved. He didn't wait for a more convenient time, and he didn't wait for a second or third witness if the first was clear. He understood that revelation has a shelf life. The Spirit is like a guest in our home. If we ignore the guest or put them off until we are less busy, eventually they will leave. There is a spiritual momentum that is generated when we act on the small things, which then prepares us for the big things. Most members of the church are waiting for a big revelation about their life's purpose, while they are simultaneously ignoring the small prompting to call a friend, to change a habit, or to spend 5 minutes in silence. Joseph taught that the more we obey the light we have, the more light we are given. This is a law of spiritual physics. If you want the heavens to open, you must prove that you are a reliable steward of the whispers you have already received. This is where the 95% fail. They treat revelation as a commodity to be consumed rather than a command to be lived. They want to know the why before they do the what. But in the economy of heaven, the why is often hidden in the doing. You find the witness in the work. You find the strength in the struggle. You find the voice in the very act of moving your feet. If you feel that God has been silent, look back at the last thing He asked you to do that you haven't done yet. Revelation is a ladder, and you cannot reach the 10th rung if you refuse to step on the second. This requires a radical kind of trust, a willingness to move into the dark, knowing that the light will only move forward as you do. Joseph didn't see the whole path from the grove to Carthage. He only saw the next step. But he took that step with a quiet certainty that the God who spoke once would speak again. You are carrying a silent struggle because you are waiting for the end of the book, but God is only showing you the next sentence. Write that sentence with your life and the next one will appear. To truly understand Joseph's pattern, we must look at the darkness before the dawn that preceded his greatest moments. Before the first vision, he was seized by a power of darkness that made him feel he was doomed to sudden destruction. This wasn't just a metaphor. It was a psychological and spiritual reality. The adversary, the forces of chaos and doubt, always gather their strength right before a major breakthrough. If you are feeling an intense weight, a sense of opposition, or a feeling that you are being pulled down by your own inadequacies, do not mistake this for God's rejection. It is often the opposite. It is the sign that you are standing at the gate of something significant. Joseph's ability to call upon God with all his might in that moment of peak darkness is what broke the seal. He didn't give up when it got hard. He intensified his effort. We live in a culture that treats discomfort as a sign to stop, but Joseph treated it as a sign to press forward. The silent struggle you feel is the resistance of the old self as it tries to prevent the birth of the new self. You are in a state of spiritual labor. The labor is painful, but it is purposeful. The prophet's insights were not born in a vacuum of peace. They were forged in the furnace of affliction. He saw the keys to revelation because he had to find them to survive. He taught us that the heavens are only sealed to those who are unwilling to endure the pressure of the opening. When you feel that you can't go on, when you feel that the silence is too much to bear, that is when you must exert every ounce of your soul in a single, focused cry for light. Not a casual prayer, but a consecration of your entire being. This is the broken heart and contrite spirit that the scriptures demand. It is not about being sad. It is about being open. It is about being so broken that the light can finally get in through the cracks. The reason 95% of seekers miss this full pattern is that they have been taught to look for the spirit in the extraordinary, while Joseph found it in the integration of the ordinary with the divine. He saw revelation in the translation of ancient records, but also in the organizing of a city, the building of a temple, and the simple conversations with friends. He taught that we should be looking for the spirit of prophecy in all things. This means developing a spiritual sensitivity that operates 24/7, not just during the 2 hours of Sunday service. It is a psychological state of alignment, where you are constantly checking your internal compass against the North Star of the Spirit. Most people miss the revelation because they have compartmentalized their lives. They have a spiritual box and a secular box. They ask for revelation about their calling, but not about their business, their health, or their relationships. Joseph Smith saw no such divide. To him, all things were spiritual. The keys he left behind are meant to be used in the kitchen, in the boardroom, and in the quiet of your own bedroom. The forgotten keys are not secret rituals. They are a way of being. Asking in faith is a mindset. Studying it out is a discipline. Recognizing the voice is a skill. Acting immediately is a character trait. When you integrate these 4 things, you begin to live in a state of continuous revelation. You stop waiting for the heavens to open because you realize they never closed. The problem isn't the transmitter. It's the receiver. You have been tuned to the frequency of the world, and the spirit is a fine, high-vibration signal that requires you to turn down the volume of your own ego and the static of your own fears. This is the empowered stillness that Joseph cultivated even in the midst of mobs and trials. He knew that the light was always there, just behind the veil of his own distractions. Consider the moment of emotional surrender that Joseph experienced in Liberty Jail. He was in the lowest, darkest, coldest place of his life. He felt abandoned not just by his friends but seemingly by God himself. "O God, where art thou?" he cried. It was the most honest, raw, and human moment of his prophetic career. And it was in that moment of total vulnerability, that soul-direct confrontation with the silence, that he received some of the most profound revelations in human history. He was told that thine adversity and thine afflictions shall be but a small moment, and that all these things shall give thee experience, and shall be for thy good. This is the core of the prophetic psychological framing, that the struggle is not an obstacle to the revelation. The struggle is the revelation. It is the process of being hollowed out so that you can be filled with the glory of God. If you are aching for truth today, if you feel that your soul is at a breaking point, know that you are in good company. You are in the company of prophets and pioneers who found God not in the easy times, but in the depths of the pit. The forgotten keys are the tools they used to climb out. They are the keys to your own prison cell. You have the power to turn them today. You don't need a middleman. You don't need a perfect track record. You only need the courage to ask, the willingness to work, the humility to listen, and the bravery to act. This is the moment where you stop being a spectator of other people's revelations and start being the author of your own. We must speak of the restoration cadence, that specific way of moving through the world that mirrors the prophet's own rhythm. It is a mix of intense labor and profound rest. Joseph was known for playing with children, wrestling with friends, and engaging deeply in the physical world, and then suddenly being caught up in the visions of eternity. He didn't live in a monastery. He lived in the thick of life. This is a vital lesson for you. Your personal grove doesn't have to be a physical place of perfect quiet. It is a place in your heart that you can access even in the middle of a chaotic day. The 95% miss the revelation because they think they have to escape their lives to find God. But Joseph found God in the middle of a family crisis, in the middle of financial ruin, and in the middle of a struggle for survival. He showed us that revelation is not an escape from reality. It is a deeper engagement with it. It is seeing the inner light in every person and the divine timing in every event. When you begin to use the 4 keys, your perception changes. You start to see patterns where you used to see chaos. You start to see opportunities where you used to see dead ends. This is the spiritual psychological breakthrough that changes everything. You realize that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a co-creator with the Almighty. The silent struggle begins to dissolve as you realize that the silence was actually a space God was holding for you to grow into. The aching in your soul is not a sign of emptiness. It is a sign of your infinite capacity. You were made for this. You were born for this hour. The keys are in your hand. Let us look at the 7th insight, the one meant for you today, the concept of alignment. Joseph Smith taught that God hath not revealed anything to Joseph, but he will make known unto the 12, and even the least saint may know all things as fast as he is able to bear them. Read that again. The least saint. That's you. That's me. There is no hierarchy in the kingdom of revelation. The only thing that separates the prophet from the person in the pew is the degree of alignment with these laws. If you feel you aren't receiving revelation, it isn't because God is playing favorites. It's because you haven't yet aligned your life with the frequency of the heavens. Alignment means that your thoughts, your words, and your actions are all moving in the same direction. It means you aren't double-minded, as James warned. You cannot ask for revelation while knowingly violating the light you already have. You cannot seek the voice of the Spirit while filling your mind with the noise of the world. This is the consecration that Joseph lived. He wasn't perfect, but he was aligned. He was always pointed toward the source. When he fell, he repented quickly and got back on the path. He didn't let shame block the channel. Most people miss the revelation because they let their own sense of unworthiness act as a lead shield. They think, God wouldn't talk to someone like me. But Joseph was just a farm boy with no education and plenty of flaws. God didn't call him because he was perfect. God called him because he was willing to be taught. If you are willing to be taught, you are qualified to be called. If you are willing to move, you are qualified to be led. The transformation you seek is not a destination. It is a way of walking. Joseph Smith's life was a testament to the fact that revelation is a continuous, unfolding process. He didn't get the whole D&C in one day. It came line upon line, precept upon precept. This is the waiting versus becoming paradox. We wait for the answer, but the waiting itself is what makes us into the person who can handle the answer. The silent calling you feel is the call to become the kind of person who can stand in the presence of God without shrinking. It is a call to develop the spiritual hunger that drives you to the grove day after day, year after year. The 95% miss this because they give up when the first prayer isn't answered in the way they expected. They don't understand that the no or the silence is often a not yet or a try harder. It is God's way of saying, I have something better for you, but you aren't ready to carry it yet. Joseph's 4 keys are the training manual for that readiness. They are the spiritual gym where you build the muscles of faith. If you are reading this, if you are hearing these words, it is because your soul is ready for the next level of that training. You are being invited to step out of the shadows of doubt and into the light of your own prophetic potential. The darkness before the dawn is almost over. Can you feel the first rays of the sun? Stay in this moment of emotional surrender. Don't rush back to the noise. Feel the weight of these truths as they settle into your heart. The sacred introspection we are practicing right now is the beginning of your breakthrough. You have been carrying a heavy load, trying to figure everything out on your own, trying to be strong enough and smart enough to survive. But you were never meant to survive on your own. You were meant to thrive through the power of the Spirit. The keys Joseph Smith saw are the keys to a life of power, a life of purpose, and a life of peace. They are not just for prophets. They are for parents, for students, for workers, for the lonely, and for the lost. They are for you. When you ask in faith, you are connecting to the power source. When you study it out, you are preparing the circuit. When you recognize the voice, you are tuning the frequency. And when you act immediately, you are turning on the light. It is that simple and it is that profound. The reason 95% miss it is because they are looking for something more complicated, something more spiritual sounding. But the restoration is a practical religion. It is about how we live and how we think. It is about the pure intelligence that helps us solve our problems and find our way home. Imagine yourself standing in that grove in 1820. The air is cool, the trees are silent, and the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You kneel down. You begin to pray. At first, it feels like your words are just hitting the leaves. Then the darkness comes, the fear, the doubt, the feeling that you are a fool for even trying. This is the moment where most people stop. They get up, brush off their knees, and go back to the world. But you stay. You cry out with all your might. You remember the keys. You ask with real intent. You have studied your heart, and you know what you need. You listen for the voice that sounds like your own but better. And then the light. It is brighter than the noonday sun. It doesn't just illuminate the trees. It illuminates you. You see yourself as God sees you, not as a struggling, flawed human, but as a being of infinite potential, a son or daughter of the Most High, with a work to do that only you can do. That light is available to you right now. It is not in the past, and it is not in the future. It is in the now of your own soul. The heavens are open. The prophet showed us the way. The rest is up to you. You who carry this quietly, you who have felt the ache of the silence, hear this. The silence is ending. The very fact that you are seeking these keys is the witness you have been asking for. The Spirit is already working on you, stirring your heart, expanding your mind. This is the alignment beginning to take hold. You are starting to vibrate at the frequency of revelation. Do not be afraid of the changes this will bring. Do not be afraid of the consecration it requires. The things you will lose are nothing compared to the things you will gain. You will lose your fear and you will gain your power. You will lose your confusion and you will gain your purpose. You will lose your loneliness and you will gain a partner in the divine. This is the promise of the restoration. This is the legacy of Joseph Smith. It is not a history lesson. It is a roadmap. It is not a set of rules. It is a set of keys. Use them. Open the door. Walk through. The light is waiting on the other side. The final call is a quiet one. It is a call to transformation. It is a call to stop being fine and start being faithful. It is a call to move past the surface and into the depths. If this resonates already, if you feel that stirring in your chest that you can't quite explain, it is because your spirit recognizes the truth. You are ready. You are ready to stop waiting and start becoming. You are ready to use the 4 keys to unlock the revelation that has been waiting for you since before the world was. The 95% of saints who miss this are not your concern. Your concern is the one soul that is you, the one soul that God is reaching for today. Be the one who hears. Be the one who acts. Be the one who sees. The darkness is receding, and the dawn is here. This is your moment. This is your grove. This is your calling. As you step back into your life, carry this empowered stillness with you. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the pure intelligence that is beginning to flow. Remember the keys. When a problem arises, don't panic. Ask in faith. When you need a direction, don't just wait. Study it out. When a thought enters your mind that brings peace and clarity, recognize the voice. And when you feel that nudge to do good, to change, to reach out, act immediately. Do this, and you will find that the heavens are not brass, but glass. Transparent, inviting, and full of light. You will find that Joseph Smith was not just a man of the 19th century, but a man of the eternities, and the truths he saw are the truths that will save you today. The witness is coming. The light is growing. The silence is over. You are in the presence of God, and He has much to tell you. Listen. Just listen. The moment you break is the moment you're called. You have felt the breaking, the cracking of the old shell, the painful stretching of a soul that has outgrown its surroundings. This is not a tragedy. It is a miracle. It is the necessary prerequisite for the spiritual psychological breakthrough that Joseph Smith lived every day. He knew that to be a prophet was to be a man who was constantly being broken and remade by the light. He taught us that we are all meant to be prophetic in our own lives, to have our own visions, our own revelations, our own direct line to the source. The silent struggle you carry is the friction of that remaking. It is the heat of the furnace. Do not step out of the fire. Let it do its work. Let it burn away the dross of your doubts and the wood of your worldly attachments. What remains will be the pure intelligence, the inner light, the consecrated mind that can see through the veil. This is the wisdom-heavy life you were called to. It is intense, it is demanding, but it is the only life that is truly alive. There is a quiet certainty that comes to those who follow this pattern. It is not the loud, boastful certainty of the ego, but the soft, unshakable certainty of the spirit. It is the knowledge that you are aligned with the laws of the universe, and therefore the universe is on your side. You no longer need to worry about the right timing, because you are in God's timing. You no longer need to worry about silent struggles, because you know that silence is just the space where the next revelation is being formed. You are at peace. You are at home in your own soul. The 4 forgotten keys have opened the door, and you have walked through. The 95% are still outside, knocking and wondering why no one answers, but you are inside, sitting at the table, feasting on the Word of God. This is not because you are better than them, but because you were more desperate. You were more willing to work. You were more willing to listen. And you were more willing to act. Stay at the table. Keep feasting. There is always more. The heavens are infinite, and the revelations of Joseph Smith were only the beginning. The restoration is not a past event. It is a present reality. It is happening right now in your heart as you embrace these keys. Stay until the final insight, for it is the one meant for you today. The 4th key, acting immediately, is the one that transforms revelation into power. When you move, you signal to the heavens that you are serious. You move from the realm of belief into the realm of knowledge. You don't just believe that God speaks. You know He speaks because you have heard Him and you have seen the results of your obedience. This knowledge is your anchor. It will hold you steady when the storms of life return, and they will. But you will be different. You will be the one who knows how to talk to the wind and the waves. You will be the one who knows how to find the light in the middle of the woods. You will be the one who knows the forgotten keys, and you will never be truly lost again. The grove is not a place you leave. It is a place you carry with you. The dawn is not a time of day. It is a state of being. You are the light. You are the revelation. You are the witness. In the quiet of this moment, as the words fade and the silence returns, do not fear it. The silence is now your friend. It is your laboratory. It is your grove. Enter it with the 4 keys in your hand. Study. Recognize. The heavens are not silent, and they never have been. They have been waiting for you to learn the language. Now that you have begun to speak it, don't stop. Keep talking to God. Keep listening for the sudden stroke of ideas. Keep moving your feet. The calling you have been waiting for is not somewhere out there in the future. It is right here, in the alignment of your soul with the light of the restoration. You are ready. Write that one word in your heart, if not with your hand. Ready. Ready for the light. Ready for the work. Ready for the witness. The prophet Joseph is watching. The heavens are cheering. And the God of the grove is speaking your name. Can you hear Him now? The silence is over. Your life is beginning. Walk into the light.